Good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the catch. This is your boy John with my co host on the other end, Steven, here with a little breaking news segment. Very relevant NFL news, very relevant fantasy football news as well. We have got Carson Wentz sidelined for approximately 5 to 12 weeks as of today, re entering a broken bone which has came loose in his foot, and he will need surgery. So obviously, a very somber day for Colts fans like my co-host Steven. So I will let you go ahead and take it with any initial emotional reactions that you want to express.
Yeah, man, it's utter shell shock. I actually got the news from our mutual friend, Ben. He sent me a message and he just said, LOL, good luck. And I had a sneaky suspicion in my head that it had to do with Carson Wentz. Ben's an Eagles fan. So it's kind of double sorted, obviously, with him because now he's going to lose out on that first round pick. That was part of that trade clause. But yeah, man, it was a shell shock when I heard the news. Kind of ruined my entire workday as well. Have not felt the same. Unfortunately, as Colts fans everywhere, we are super familiar with this over the past decade now, almost.
Yeah.
You look at it and you're like, okay, Peyton Manning, neck injury, fluke, random, right? And then it goes to Andrew Luck, who just decides to retire on us out of nowhere. And now it's Carson Wentz, who it's an old foot injury from I heard Frank Reich's conference. It might have been from high school.
Yeah.
I mean, this you can't make it up. And as a Colts fan, it's disgusting.
Yeah. So, and the timetable for this injury is obviously it's very different. It's just it's gonna depend on a lot of different things. So, we could see him back as early as week one. If you're so there's some reason for hope, right? But up to 12 weeks is gonna push pretty substantial into the season as well. And even if and when he does return, how worried are you about a possible re-injury with that history of Carson Wentz and how many injuries he's dealt with over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny actually. There's this analogy or metaphor of a frog and a scorpion. And basically the end gist is that a scorpion's going to do what a scorpion's going to do, and if you continue to put your faith that someone's going to change, it's kind of your fault. And point being, my dad was saying, it's the story of a scorpion and a frog, right? We knew Carson Wentz was an injury prone player coming in, and we put it all on black and just said, we're going to let this franchise roll with this guy. Most of the timetable I'm seeing is 5 to 12. And honestly, knowing Carson Wentz history, this is going to be something that goes on longer than 5 weeks.
So, with that pain you're experiencing, is there any anger directed towards some names like Tom Brady or Matt Stafford or
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers and people that you could have been potentially trying to trade for, potentially signing? It was revealed that there's some interest from Brady, and yet this was the guy that the Colts wanted. So, I mean, how do you feel in regards to that as well in this situation?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what kind of makes this worse. It's like death by a thousand cuts, it seems like, because when you look at how Chris Ballard's handled the team building aspect, it's hard to hate him because he has put great draft picks together. He's found diamonds in the rough, but my biggest beef is he just won't pay out any money. And I
Yeah.
mean, you see a guy like Tom Brady, you see guys like Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford. We didn't dive into that at all. And the fact that we just said, oh yeah, let's just take Carson Wentz, like that's such a cheapskate move. And so as a fan, I don't care at all about the draft picks. You know what I mean? It's like we're wasting them because they're going to go leave for another team.
Really,
Quarterbacks win championships. That's bottom
really
line.
missing Jacoby Brissett right now as Jacob Eason's, in the words of Frank Wright. I mean, he's your guy, right? They're going to give him the offense until Carson is back. So they're saying, right? Do you think there's any actual buzz around a trade for a guy like Nick Foles, or do you think they're going to wait this out and take their losses or until Carson is back?
Yeah, I actually, so I've been hearing the same stuff about Nick Foles. And to be honest, I do think the quarterback of the 2021 season is going to be outside of this current locker room. There's a lot more pressure than I think people are trying to admit right now that's on Frank Reich's shoulders and Chris Ballard's shoulders for how they handled the situation. Maybe reporters aren't cramming them now about how they've handled it in the past, but they cannot go into next season with Jacob Eason or Sam Ellinger at quarterback. So I think Nick Foles, or, they might trade a number of picks or just a 6th round pick, 5th round pick. I don't know what the combination will be, but for Jacoby Brissett, who they just lost in free agency to Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't see the Dolphins letting him go. He's such a good number two, behind Tua. So, I mean, they could certainly try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, any last comments you want to get in before we just touch on the fantasy aspects of this?
No, man. I mean, it's devastating. Like I said, the whole Colts fan base. This is a great fan base of people, and they're loyal. I mean, we're not the most exciting team. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, we've put out good teams year over year. Outside of that, right after the Colts, losing Peyton Manning, it just hurts. It hurts because I do think this is going to be something that sticks around for a year or two. We're probably going to finish this next season in a position where we don't get the greatest draft pick either. Um,
Sure.
but you know what? The only great upside out of this is we get that 1st round pick, and
Yeah.
the Eagles don't. So screw the Eagles, fly Eagles by my ass. That's the only good thing out of this.
Sure. Yeah. And I believe, if Carson Wentz only plays, it's like 70 or 75% of his games. The Eagles also lose
That
a
first
late.
round pick. Yeah.
Okay, it's the
Oh,
first round pick. I think
yeah.
that there's another draft pick that may go to waste as well. I'm not sure. I read about it earlier, but anyways, so from a fantasy side of things, Carson Wentz, his ADP hasn't really been updated on all sites yet. He was pretty low, not really, a quarterback a lot of people were targeting, just, with the uncertainty of how this offense was going to shake out. Right now on Fantasy Pros, he's listed as QB 22 between Ben Roethlisberger and Derek Carr as well. And you've got Justin Fields and Sam Darnold going after him. I mean, obviously, with this timetable, I think most people will be willing to take a risk on a Derek Carr or a Sam Darnold at the moment. As the weeks get closer to the regular season, it's definitely possible that we might know and understand a little bit more about Carson Wentz's timetable and when he's going to return. And if there's rumors of week one, then I think you'll see him drafted, in deeper leagues, 14 or more man leagues. But I think outside of that, he's going to go undrafted. I think maybe he's worth monitoring going, as we know a little bit more.
No, cut
Possibly,
it out. Cut it out.
possibly. Okay,
No, no, no.
you're
That's
giving
not
up,
going to happen. I'm
giving up.
done. I'm
Hey,
done.
I don't
I'm
blame
done with
you.
this guy. I'm done with this guy.
Well, let me ask you this question, right? Because there's kind of two arguments about Jonathan Taylor now, who's still kind of locked in, around RB8, ADP of pick 8 as well. So here's the question, right there. Here's the two arguments. So one argument is that this team is going to have no chance moving the ball down the field without Carson Wentz, which tanks Jonathan Taylor's fantasy value down a few spots, maybe closer to like, number 12 overall, closer to like Austin Eckler or Najee Harris is going. Or you could argue he's less valuable than that, and he's closer to that tier 4 where like DeAndre Swift and Josh Jacobs are going. But then the flip side of things is. Some people believe that this is going to, result in the Colts having to just hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor repetitively because that's going to be their only option. I mean, they do have a very crowded backfield as well. So I think some of those other running backs, in the same sake of argument, could benefit as well. But those are kind of your two main arguments in regards to fantasy. So I'm interested to see which argument you kind of, lie with.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to give me those two scenarios, I'm going to probably say he sticks closer to where he's at right now. I do think he falls a little bit though, because this is a totally different offense now. they're going to stack the box. They're going to know that we're going to be running it 60% of the time, 70% of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have a great offensive line, but that doesn't mean that Jonathan Taylor is just going to end up, performing at a high rate every single attempt. So I do think that they get hit a little bit there. At this point, I'm taking a guy like Aaron Jones over him. Definitely taking a guy like Najee Harris over him. So I think that's really the kind of adjustment I'm expecting to see. But it is one thing to be said that I do think other running backs might see a little bit of an uptick in their value on this roster, and that's Naheem Hines, the primary catching back out of the backfield. I do think if we get a guy like Nick Foles or really anybody, I don't care who it is, they're going to try to get the ball into someone's hands as quick as possible and out of the quarterback's hands. So I do think Naheem Hines benefits out of this, but not enough to really elevate him on a draft board either.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't. I agree with you. I definitely take, some of those other guys you listed like Najee Harris or Aaron Jones above Jonathan Taylor right now. Um, and I do definitely agree that Naheem Hines is going to see some positive fantasy value out of this as well. And I definitely agree with the point that it's hard to argue that Jonathan Taylor benefits in the sense that he's going to get so many more touches with the fact that, like you said, defenses are going to know that you have to run the ball, and they're going to kind of put everything out there to stop the run. And I'm a little worried for this Colts team overall now. I think their defense is, one of the better defenses in the league, one of the more underrated defenses in the league. But I'm very worried for how this offense is going to look, and it's kind of causing that question mark and wanting me to just stay away from all Colts players in fantasy.
Yeah, totally agree. Somebody we touched on when we went over the AFC South was Paris Campbell. And to be honest, if I'm looking at any player in terms of upside, it would be Paris Campbell. Because again, Frank Reich's offensive system highlights getting into explosive players as fast as possible. This is going to be even more important now. So guys like Paris Campbell, I mean, very important to get it to him as quick as possible. This is the only guy in our offense that can really change the game immediately once he catches it. So I think that that's a player that I would be looking at as maybe some potential upside and someone to really look at to take at the end of your drafts because he's going late. So when you're looking at maybe drafting a guy like T.Y. Hilton, just don't do it. Don't do it because at the end of the day, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, those are your options at receiver.
Yeah, it's a somber day to say the least for Colts fans. Definitely huge fantasy implications. A lot of things, we're going to have to start monitoring with this Colts team as the season continues to draw closer. And unfortunately, this is probably going to happen to one or two other teams where they're going to have a situation that kind of affects, all of fantasy pretty drastically. So we just wanted to get that quick, breaking news segment in. So we appreciate you guys watching and or listening. Stephen, I'll hand it to you to do this. Any final thoughts as a sad little Colts fan in an office chair?
Yeah, screw you. Yeah, no, but honestly, at the end, it sucks for Colts fans. It sucks for Carson Wentz. I do feel for him as a guy, hell of a player. I think he's a good guy, but injuries are probably going to be what marks this guy's career. It's just like Andrew Luck. So it's similar scenarios. It's just very talented guys. But with that said, go ahead and slam the under on FanDuel right now, currently at 9 games winning. They're not doing that. They are not doing that. So hit the under. That's it. I already lost that bet because I hit the over earlier this season. So now I'm going to double down, and Titans might benefit out of this too in their win total as well.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, to wrap it up, another sad statement from a Colts fan. We thank you all so very much for watching. This was The Catch.